Today's episode of the Sensory Friendly Solutions podcast on the Unsettled Media Podcast Network is brought to you by Sensory Friendly Solutions. Discover sensory friendly solutions for daily life. To learn more, head to sensoryfriendly.net. Unsettled. Hello, listeners. Welcome to episode 6 of the Sensory Friendly Solutions podcast. It's hard to believe you've now been with us for 6 episodes, but here we are. And we're very lucky to have had the voice of Karine Gagner on this episode, all the way from Greater Montreal. She's the president of fdmt. You can find out more about fdmt at fdmt.ca. The introduction for this episode will be short, but I wanted to read the first paragraph of the About Us page on FDMT's website. It really struck a chord. It says this: all children learn differently, and our goal is to help them develop to their full potential. We wholeheartedly offer you resources, games, educational materials, and quality sensory tools. We are your allies in challenges and your accomplices in your daily pleasures. This is episode 6 of the Sensory Friendly Solutions podcast with Karine Gagner. Karine, thank you so much for joining the Sensory Friendly Solutions podcast.
Well, thank you, Matt, for having me.
Karine, where am I finding you right now?
Well, I'm in Longueuil, which is just outside of Montreal in Quebec, Canada.
Excellent. Great. I'm on the East Coast, a little bit further towards the ocean than you are, but nonetheless, I'm really glad that we could connect today. And before we get going, I'd love you to introduce yourself and the work you're doing right now. I know some of our listeners may be familiar, but we want to make sure they're up to speed with all of the great things you're doing right now.
Sure. Well, basically, I'm the owner and the founder of fdmt and the manimo weighted animals. fdmt is a sensory product solution, I should say, which I started 18 years ago. And we've started this business, my dad and I, because simply, there was a lot of things. I used to work in the hotel business, which is completely outside of this kind of sensory world. But in life at this point it was an OT and specialized with kids with sensory issues. And I was fascinated with all this clientele, and I was pregnant at that time. And it just happened that my daughter, Anais, when she was born in 2002, she was like, she was a special kid. She was wonderful, but she had those special issues, I should say. We found out later on that she had like sensory disorder and that she was like on the autism spectrum. And it kind of made me engage even more, I should say, in this business. I love what I was starting to do. I was always good with people. I was always curious. I'm not an OT myself, but my sister is an OT, and it just was really something that I wanted to go further into it. And because of my daughter, I just simply like digged in even more. So we've created the manimo line, which are the weighted animal. The reason for manimo was really like OTs in the sensory field would work a lot with weighted blankets or weighted vests, which was more therapy. And if we're back 18 years ago, that was really something that was not as the awareness about these kinds of products were really not well known for like the public in general. And talking with teachers and with OTs and this, so we just said like, well, how about we create something that the kids will want to use and that will relate to, and it will become something more than just a therapeutic tool, but it will be something that becomes kind of your friend. And that's where really the manimo line came in. So manimo is basically like an animal shape, like kind of like a stuffed animal, like a teddy bear, but it's not a teddy bear. Like the first one was a lizard. Why a lizard? Because we thought it was something different. That was not like that was really never like it's not something that you really want to cuddle for first at the beginning. But because of the way the lizard is made, it's like the big paws and the long tail. You kind of want to play with it. So that's how it happened. It was really something that we wanted to create for kids at the beginning with sensory issues, to have something that would achieve what a weighted vest would in therapy, but something that the kid can actually relate to and just go and grab when they need it. So it's something accessible instead of being a therapy. That's really how it started, what we're doing.
I love talking about our guests' origin stories because they're all so fascinating, and there's always a catalyst somewhere within that conversation. But before we get to that, you just gave a great description, but I want to rewind just for a minute and do what I feel is kind of a mandatory COVID check-in. How did the company manage through what we're all experiencing right now? I know as far as the eastern portion of the company, Montreal was particularly adversely affected. I have many friends in your area. So how did you navigate? Did you change your approach? Was there actually opportunity discovered? Did it hurt the business? How have you been navigating throughout this?
Well, I think like everybody, if we just step back 6 months ago, how it all happened. And yes, Montreal was really well affected, and we're like in a red alert zone at this point. But I think that personally, when all this happened and everything got like the big lockdown, everything happened so fast, and I was just back from vacation with my daughter. I was a weekend vacation with her, like a school break, and we just came back and just like realizing, like we knew that it was there, it was coming, but it's kind of, I think that I feel like I received like a big something in the forehead, and just like, oh my gosh, okay, this is what it is. And then like the school stopped like two days after I came back from vacation. So what happened? Basically, the first thing was like, okay, schools are shutting down, business are shut down like 2 days after. So we had to shut everything down. That was difficult, I should say, as a business owner, yes, but as a human being, you don't build a business and you don't have like a team to have to how do you say that in English, to make people like out of work. I don't know the exact term. So this is something that was really hard, and I had to do this over Zoom because with my team, because I was in quarantine, because I had traveled outside of the country. So that was really hard. I should say, as a human, I didn't like that part. That was really hard. But at the same time, it shows how much energy inside you can have. So me and a very small team, I mean, like for the first 3 weeks of the lockdown, we were 10 people out of a team of 40. And we just try to, rethink how we're going to do things, how we can reopen. And we were able to reopen because we were considered essential services, because we actually supply a lot of the health